Okay, this is just notes. I'm going to go over 5 problems, and this is different than what you did yesterday. It's more complicated. So you have to solve for the x variable in the equation. Now, technically that 2 would be made a fraction, so now that's 3 ratios within the proportion. So again, you're going to need to first make, I don't like a minus, make that plus negative. Okay, just the 4 goes negative. Now you're going to need to rewrite this problem with longer lines, plus and then the equals, because we have to get common denominators. I'm going to put CD. I don't want to put LCD because it's not the way I do it. I'm not always getting the lowest common denominator. I'm just getting a common denominator. It's all I care about. Okay, now here's what you have. Here's why this is different. Okay, look at your tops. The first fraction, you got a 2, and that's it. So I just put 2 down. No operations with the 2 within the fraction. Leave the bottom empty. A -4, no operations within the fraction. An x, no operations within the fraction. A 2, no operations. But I have a minus operation here. I didn't have that in the last video, okay? When I have a plus or minus operation within an expression, then that expression needs to go in a parentheses when I put it down here, okay? So your common denominator, it's the same thought process as yesterday. You don't have anything here. You're going to, but not yet. Here I have x, and here I have x minus 2. Now, x and x minus 2 are totally different. So what I do, so I don't get confused, since that x is just by itself, I call it solo x, okay? And that's a parentheses x minus 2. Now, how many solo x's do you have here? You don't have any. How many solo x's here? 1. How many solo x's here? You don't have any there either. That x is not solo. Okay, it's not flying solo. So we need to raise these so they each have 1, the first and third. So I put an x here. Already had it there. Now you want to put it in front of the parentheses, right directly in front. X. Okay, now they all have a solo x. Now how about the x minus 2? Well, I don't have any here. I don't have any here, but I have 1 here. So we have to raise these 2 so they have 1 and 1, the first 2. So I go x minus 2, x minus 2. And then right here, x minus 2, x minus 2. Now, you can disregard the bottom now that they're all the same, but the top, yeah, it's a little bit of a mess. So what I do is look at the first fraction, I just distribute. 2x times 1x would be 2x to the second. Actually, don't put that equals down first. Okay, 2x times 1x is 2x to the second, and then 2x times -2 is -4x, so put minus 4x. Then write your plus sign. Well, actually don't write a plus sign. -4 times x would be -4x, and then -4 times -2 would be +8. Now you can write your equals, and over here you just got 2x. Okay, now what you do is look at each side and collect like terms. So on this side you got 2x to the second. I combine the x's, and that would be -8x. -4 minus 4 is -8, or you could add -4, -4, and then you got +8. Over here you got 2x. Now in this equation, the x, I think, at this point has 2 answers, okay? And you have other x's that are not to the second, so you need to clear one side so you can factor. So you want to clear the side that doesn't have x squared. So that's where you want your 0. So you get that 2x out of there and subtract it from -8x. So it's 2x second minus 10x plus 8 equals 0, and then I factor. It's GCF T. Okay, GCF, negative, don't need him. X, don't need him. But 2, 10, and 8 share a greatest common factor of 2. Okay. And that becomes 1x to the second minus 5x plus 4. Okay, that takes me right into my T-chart. 1 times 4 is 4. It's positive, so we're going to add. And we're trying to get to 5 negative. So 1 and 4, there's your 5. So 5 negative would make negative 4, negative 1. Now my A is just a 1 up here, so I can get rid of that and rewrite it as x minus 1 and x minus 4. Now we did have a GCF of 2, and I'm going to carry that down here, but it doesn't have an x, so I don't worry about it. These are my two factors I go with. Okay, so x minus 1 is 0, x minus 4 is 0, and the two answers would be 1 and 4. Okay, okay, second problem. Again, I'm not a fan of the minus. Underline that, but then plus negative, and then extend your line. So there's 3 of them. Now, that has an operation, so you're going to write that as 2 times x, but you don't put a parentheses around times. You do put a parentheses around that because it has minus. Negative 1, just sole x. And then again, when you have a plus, you should put it in pluses and minuses have to be parenthesized. Okay, now I come up with a CD, common denominator. So I've got an x minus 3 in parentheses, and then nothing, and x plus 3. Now remember, x minus 3 and x plus 3 are not the same thing. So x minus 3, I've got 1, 0, 0. So we need to raise these up so they have the second and third need an x minus 3. Remember, it has to go on top too. X plus 3, 0, 0, 1. So we got to raise those two up. And this is going to be miserable, okay? Now everything has its own thing, okay? All right, so first, 2 times x is 2x, okay? Then I distribute, and the bottom can be disregarded. So 2x times 1x is 2x to the second. 2x times positive 3 is plus 6x. Okay, now watch what I have to do on this one, okay? You don't need to write this down, okay? Just watch how I would do it, okay? Negative 1 and then x minus 3 and then x plus 3. Well, first I distribute the negative 1 to each of these. So it'd be negative 1x, and negative 1 times negative 3 is positive 3. And then I do the FOIL method. Negative 1x times 1x. Negative 1x times 3, positive 3 times 1x, and 3 times 3. So that's going to be negative 1x to the second. That's going to be negative 3x. That's going to be positive 3x. Just watch this. You don't need to write it down. And that's 9. Okay, so I've got negative 1x to the second. Negative, these be combined, but they combine to make 0, okay? So I just write plus 9, and then write my equals. Okay, that's 1x to the second minus 3x. Okay, now you've got x to the, so combine like terms, okay? So over here, 2 and negative 1, you add those two together. That would be 1x to the second plus 6x, because that's the only x, and then plus 9. Again, 2 and negative 1 combine to make 1 when you add. And over here, you can't combine anything. 1x second minus 3x. Now, there's only one answer. Here's why. Because you have x second, but they're both the same, 1 and 1. So we cancel those when they're on opposite sides. So there's only one answer. And I'll subtract 6x. That's going to give me 9 equals negative 9x. Divided by negative 9, and that's negative 1. Okay, next one. That one's the worst one by far as far as work goes. Okay, again, I showed you how to do this product here. You just distribute and FOIL. Okay. All right, 1 over x plus 1, remember, get that as a fraction, equals 8 over x plus 3. So again, so you got 1x, no operations, 1, 8. Here we have an operation, and it's a plus, so you parenthesize it. The plus and minus operators have to be parenthesized. So the common denominator. So I got solo x, nothing, and then a parentheses of x plus 3. Okay, so solo x, I got 1, 0, and 0. Again, that's not a solo x, okay? That's in parentheses. So we raise those up so they have 1. Okay, so times x, or no, wait a second, I already had it. X and x. Now remember, put it in front, x and x. X plus 3, 0, 0, 1. Okay, so you raise those up so they have 1. So x plus 3, x plus 3, x plus 3, x plus 3. Okay, so you delete those. Now this is easy. That'd be 1x plus 3. That would be 1x to the second, because 1x times 1x, and then 1x times 3 is 3x, and then that would be just 8x. Okay, so remember, collect like terms. So x second, I got just the 1. X, I got 1 plus 3, that would be 4x. And then I got plus 3. And over here I got 8x. So obviously I'm going to need to factor. There'd be 2 answers. And you can't put the x's together, okay? So you need 0, so minus 8x, and that can go under 4x. So now I'm at 1x to the second minus 4x, because 4 minus 8 is negative 4, plus 3 equals 0. So that's 3 terms. So that's GCF-T. Okay, so GCF, you're not going to have the negative, you're not going to have the x, and then 1. So that takes me down to here. So 1 times 3 is 3, positive, and that's adding to try to get to 4, negative. 1 and 3 does it, 4 negative, so you got negative, and the positive means they would both match. Okay, now again, your A is 1, so we just rewrite that as x minus 1 times x minus 3. Check the GCF box, there's nothing. That's F1, and that's F2. So either x minus 1 could be 0, or x minus 3 could be 0. So I add 1, I'm at 1. Add 3, and I'm at 3. Okay, then the next one, underline that. Okay, 4, no operations. Now this one has 2 operations. No, don't distribute it, okay? You got a 3 and a times, and then the x plus 4, which is already in a parentheses. You want to put the times, though. Nothing. Now that would be 2 times the 1, I guess. 2x, now that's an operation. 2 times x. That's a plus, so that needs to go in parentheses, okay? Now, what do you got? Well, you have solo 3. I call it solo, the stuff solo, because it's not in parentheses. It's its own factor. And then also parentheses of x plus 4. Nothing, and then another x plus 4. Well, I already have that one. Okay, so solo 3, I got 1, 0, 0. Just like you have solo x, you can have solo 3. Okay, so we put 3 times 3. Remember, put it before the parentheses, times 3. Okay, x plus 4, I've got 1, 0, and 1. So I'm raising that up. So x plus 4, x plus 4. Now it's all the same, okay? So I have 4 here. And here all I do is take 1 times 3, that's 3, and then I distribute 3 to x, which is 3x, and 3 to 4, which is 12. And over on this side, I just take 2 times x would be 2x, and 2x times 3 would be 6x. Okay. Now, you only got one answer because you don't have it to the second power. Now, on this side, you got 3x, and then I put the 4 and 12 together to make 16. And then over here, we got 6x. Now, I don't need the 0. I just combine the x's. I do the subtraction. Remember, the 0 is when you have x's you can't put together. Well, these could be put together. You just get them on the same side. So 16 equals 3x. Divide by 3, and I'm going to leave that 16 thirds. Could also do 5 1/3, same thing. Okay, last one. Okay, so x, drop it. Remember, with the plus, you need to put it in parentheses. -1, just x, 1. So the only operation I had within the fraction itself was that plus, okay? Remember, multiplication, I put a dot. Addition, subtraction is already there, but I have to put it in parentheses. Okay, so CD. Here you got x plus 2. Here you got what's known as solo x. That's what I call it. Okay, I'm not sure what it's called in math circles. And then empty. X plus 2, I got 1. Remember, that's 0 and 0. Okay, so we got to get those together. So I've got x plus 2, x plus 2. X plus 2, x plus 2. Now everything has 1x plus 2. Solo x, remember, I know I have one on top, but that doesn't count. It's got to be on bottom. You don't have any solo x's on bottom. Here you have 1. You don't have any there either. So we need to raise those up, the first and third, so they have 1. So solo x, remember, put it in front, and you times it to the top. That already has 1. Remember, put it right in front of the parentheses, and you're just going to put it right there. Okay, get him out of there. So x times x is x to the second. I'm going to put a 1 in front. And over here, we need to just distribute into the parentheses. That's going to be minus 1, negative 1x. So minus 1x. Negative 1 times 2 is negative 2. And over here, 1x times 1x is 1x to the second, and then 1x times 2 is 2x. Now, at first glance, you're like, oh, I got to get a 0. No, you don't, because the x seconds on opposite sides, I mean, I can't combine anything here or here, but I look at the x squared, well, they're exactly the same, so they cancel, okay? Now, these x's can be combined. You just got to get them on the same side. So let's get rid of the negative 1x through addition. And negative 2 is equal to 3x. And then we divide by 3. Negative 2/3 is the solution. Okay.